Members of Council, if you can please take your seats. I will call this meeting to order. Would you please stand for the national anthem? Please remain standing for a moment of silence, and during this time, remember Xavier William Scott Morgan. Thank you. We acknowledge that we are meeting today on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit First Nation, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and home to many diverse Indigenous peoples. For the benefit of those who are connected to the Internet, the City Clerk has posted all of the agenda materials for today's meeting at toronto.ca/council. Members, we have two presentations this morning. The first is to recognize city staff who addressed the recent flooding in the city, and I would like to call upon Mayor Tory to come forward for the announcement.
Good morning, Madam Speaker and members of Council. Before I talk about the people that have helped with the flooding we've experienced at the island, I want to just acknowledge the great work done by our city staff, many of them in the Canada Day events. I'm sure many of you, I saw some of you at these events, the city organized ones, and I had a chance to be at many of the larger ones across the city on Canada Day, and they did a great job, and I think did the city proud, and the events were well attended and well supported by Torontonians. And so I just want to acknowledge through Councillor Thompson and the Economic Development staff, and a lot of the Parks, Forestry and Recreation staff were involved, and they did a superb job, and I think the people would have said that the expenditure of our resources on that was something they liked, because I think they seem to be having a very good time. So please, yeah, that's it. This morning, I also wanted on your behalf to take a moment to acknowledge the work of city staff, and this has been going on for some time now, and our partner agencies during the high water and flooding episodes. We have seen the boardwalk damaged, we've seen beaches submerged, we've seen homes threatened, we've seen parks closed, businesses have been adversely affected, as we've seen. You know, this is going to happen in these times, and also in a city that is built around ravines and our Great Lake that we have, which has done so much for us in terms of powering industry and providing space for leisure and bringing nature right to the doorstep of the city. But nature has a way of reminding us from time to time that it is powerful, and we have to be vigilant in looking after these kinds of things. And we have reports coming before us in the next few days that will bring focus to this reality, one that relates directly to the impact of this flooding on so far on the city, and it doesn't even really begin, I don't think, to catalog what we'll have to do by way of repair later when the floods are over, which they're not yet. And then, of course, Transform TO, which is a plan to mitigate these impacts and build a more resilient city. But before we turn to those plans, I wanted to just, on your behalf, welcome some of the staff, and I'll ask them to stand in a moment, that have been making incredible efforts on behalf of the residents of the island who live there, and obviously have more at stake in the context of their ongoing lives, but all the residents of the city who, of course, treat the Toronto Island parks as a hugely valuable asset and a place of great enjoyment, and the businesses who are there, who are our partners in many respects in making sure that people have a pleasant time there. I've been to the island on a number of occasions, and to the waterfront on a number of occasions since this all started. And I will say, each time that I've gone to the island, I couldn't possibly have received more praise for the city staff on my visits there. And they were very grateful. The staff have gone above and beyond the call of duty. They've been working many extra hours, and I would say that what they've done is to make sure that we've done everything possible, we can say that, to keep the residents and the businesses and our natural assets there, the park, as well protected as ever could have been expected. And so I want to thank in particular, it's a dangerous thing to do this, but in particular some of the leadership of the group, James Dan, Donna Kovacius, Warren Hosselton, Gordon McPherson, Nancy Gaffney. The latter two are from the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, and they've been great partners for us in helping to preserve and protect and restore, because we've gone through several phases of this where we thought we'd sort of pumped out the eastern beaches, for example, only to have the area get filled back in with water again. But beyond the leadership group that I've mentioned, I want to just thank all the staff at Parks, Forestry and Recreation, the Toronto Region Conservation Authority, Toronto Water, Toronto Public Health, Transportation Services, the Office of Emergency Management, Toronto Fire Services, Toronto Police Marine Unit, Paramedic Services, Strategic Communications, Engineering and Construction, Toronto Building, and Toronto Hydro and Enbridge. All of those organizations and departments and so on have been involved in what has been a plan that did as well as it could. And they've worked as a team. I've seen it with my own eyes. Some of you will have as well. And I hope that the day will come in the not too distant future. It'll come when it comes, when we can reopen the park partially or completely. But the bottom line is that these people continue to stand on guard for us there. And so I just want those involved that I've named, either individually or in groups, to please stand so that you can be recognized by the City Council. So please stand up. I just say to you that you know, because many of you are there all the time, these are civic treasures. These are among our most treasured assets, and thank you for protecting them and for trying to bring them back. And I know that there's lots of work to be done to get them back to where they need to be, but we really appreciate everything you've done thus far. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Our second presentation this morning is to recognize the Ontario Senior of the Year, Miss Frances Chapkin. I would like to call upon Councillor Matlow to come forward for the presentation.
Good morning, Mayor, colleagues. On behalf of the City of Toronto, my co-chair, Dr. Samir Sinha of the Accountability Table and the Senior Strategy, and our project lead, Andre Austin, I'm very happy to be here to acknowledge and celebrate Ms. Frances Chapkin. We've been in a position to see the significant contribution of Ms. Chapkin and her work on the Seniors Strategy portfolio over the past decade. We personally have known and have worked with Frances since 2012. Frances Chapkin is and I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, Frances is a 91-year-old Canadian senior living in Toronto with her husband. She is a mother of 4 and a grandmother of 7. She has been a leader across the city, sitting on and chairing several tables related to seniors issues in the city. The following is a quick overview of some of her outstanding contributions to the City of Toronto that has left a lasting legacy. Frances worked very closely as a member of the Toronto Senior Strategy Accountability Table, co-chaired by Dr. Sinha and myself, to develop the 91 recommendations that led to actions that were adopted unanimously by the City Council on May 7th, 2013. Also, as a member of that committee, Frances led the subcommittee that oversaw the monitoring of the implementation of the Toronto Senior Strategy that resulted in a November 2016 progress report to Council showing that 90 of 91 recommended actions have been implemented. This achievement is particularly significant given that it moved recommendations that had not been actioned by the city in over a decade. Frances continues to sit on the Toronto Senior Strategy Accountability Table in her capacity as chair of the Toronto Seniors Forum and is partnering with city staff and community partners to develop the next phase of our Toronto Senior Strategy, which I should let you all know is coming later this year. Frances also helped develop the common metrics and indicators for seniors' needs. Frances acts as chair of the city's main advisory and advocacy body for seniors, the Toronto Seniors Forum, and has held that strategic leadership position for the past 5 years. She has also transformed that table from a disparate and ineffectual set of actors into a coherent system of seniors and community animators able to engage and activate seniors from across 140 neighborhoods. Frances worked with the city to develop a scoping review of interventions designed to support seniors and to better integrate government and community-based providers. Frances personally chairs monthly meetings of the Toronto Seniors Forum, attends bi-monthly meetings of the Toronto Senior Strategy Accountability Tables, and many other committees related to advancing the health and well-being of older Torontonians. She follows the business of council closely, as she is today, and regularly provides deputations to council committees on issues related to making Toronto a caring, respectful, and inclusive, age-friendly city. She also organized and led numerous public consultations to provide input into the development of the city's next senior strategy. Frances was instrumental in developing the city's application to the World Health Organization that resulted in the City of Toronto being officially recognized as one of the world's newest global age-friendly cities in February of 2016. And this plaque is now proudly displayed right in the front of the rotunda if you walk in through the front doors of City Hall. This exists in large part because of the determination of Frances Chapkin. As one of the two co-chairs of the Toronto Senior Strategy, and on behalf of Andrea Austin, we work with a team of 60 city divisions, city agencies, community partners, including hospitals, LHINs, Ontario Senior Secretariat, CMHC, community health centers, family health teams, academic and research partners, community agencies serving seniors, advocacy equity organizations, including the Toronto Seniors Forum, school boards, local businesses, older Torontonians, and caregivers working together to monitor the city's existing senior strategy and develop the city's next age-friendly plan. Frances is a highly valued member of our team and develops an extensive output of her work. Her level of commitment is unparalleled and deeply deserving of this honor for her civic participation in the city's efforts to become the most caring, respectful, and inclusive age-friendly city in the world. Frances deserves this distinction as Toronto's Senior of the Year in 2017. Frances, please come up here. I want to mention that we have some staff who always take our direction, whether it be wise or foolish. And then we have staff who take our direction and run with it as a labor of love, as a personal quest. Andrea Austin did that. Andrea initiated this application to the Ontario government. Dr. Samir Sinha and I were very happy to co-sign it and support it with enthusiasm. And on behalf of all of our colleagues, and I'd like to ask the mayor to come up, please. And also with great appreciation for Minister Demerla and the Ontario government, I'm very happy to award Ms. Frances Chapkin as Ontario's Senior of the Year of 2017. Congratulations, Frances.
I'm not going to accept this until you let me speak to you for 3.5 minutes. I know you have a very busy agenda today, and so I appreciate you giving me this time. So good morning, and I hope that you had a wonderful birthday for Canada, the 150th. I'm going to add a little bit of what you said, and I really appreciate all the things that you said about me. You're always so flattering. In 1988, my 65-year-old husband, because mandatory requirement was in effect, was forced to leave his employment with the Ontario government. I was working at West Park Long-Term Care and Rehabilitation Hospital, and although not quite 65, decided to join him, and I too retired. And that's when I started on my new career, that of a full-time volunteer advocating on behalf of seniors. I joined the Older Women's Network, OWN, and found out that high on their list of concerns was mandatory retirement, as it was detrimental to the welfare of older women. It took several decades before mandatory retirement was repealed. OWN then sent me to Ottawa, where I met with Dr. Hetty Fry, head of the Status of Women. I accompanied her to a housing committee meeting where I strongly urged the federal government to introduce a National Housing Act, like the Canada Health Act, that already existed. Affordable housing was sadly needed in Toronto, especially for older women. However, my recommendation was rejected, but I'm still advocating for affordable housing for seniors. I also joined the Canadian Pensioners Concerned and the Older Canadians Network. Their mandate was to protect Canada's social programs. We addressed the financial and health care needs of seniors. I next became a member of the Board of Directors for Downsview Services for Seniors. It is now called LumaCare. LumaCare presently has 7 sites and provides a growing number of services and programs for seniors, all to enable seniors to maintain their independence and dignity. And 7 years ago, I became a member of the Toronto Seniors Forum and have been chair for the past 3 years. The forum supported the introduction of the Toronto Senior Strategy, as so nicely explained by Councillor Matlow, and has since continued to advocate on behalf of seniors the need for affordable public transportation, yes, I do use the TTC, affordable and suitable housing, and seniors' health issues. And I am a member of the Strategies Accountability Table, as you've been informed about, and 2 years ago cheered when we were able to obtain the title of Age-Friendly City. As ambassadors, the Forum obtained a New Horizons grant 4 years ago, and I actively worked with the Ubanti community in Scarborough to educate them about civic engagement. Perhaps you were present right here when they were witnessing the council chambers in action, and then they toured the City Hall. They have never been to City Hall before, so it was an opportunity to have them learn about how their city government works. 2 years ago, partnering with Care Watch, a New Horizons grant provided the Forum with the opportunity to meet with 11 senior organizations. Over 500 people had the opportunity to learn about ageism and to develop strategies to address the discrimination of the elderly, and we're still working on that. Recently, the Forum recommended that City Council utilize a senior's lens. Let me say that again, a senior's lens when making decisions, and thankfully it was adopted by you, the Council. During all these years as a volunteer trying to bring about social justice for seniors, who have been my role models? Before the age of 65, it was Margaret Mead, anthropologist. Maybe some of you weren't even alive at the time she was doing her work. At 65, it was Doris Anderson, a politician. When I was an old senior at 75, it was Betty Friedan, the feminist. And as an older senior at 85, it was Ursula Franklin, physicist, who just died recently. Now that I'm a very old senior at 90, who is my role model? Well, I seem to have an affinity for Queen Elizabeth II. Both of us were born in the same year, 1926. We're the same age. Our husbands are both at 96, and they've stood by us throughout our entire marriage. We each gave birth to 4 children around the same time. The Queen has 8 grandchildren and 5 great-grandchildren. I have 10 grandchildren, I'll just correct you, and 2 great-grandchildren. And both of us, the Queen and I, deliver speeches of hope and inclusivity. I don't know who writes her speeches, but I know who writes mine. And I do believe the Queen plans to continue as queen as long as she can, and I plan to continue advocating for seniors as long as I can. In closing, I wish to express my utmost thanks to the 3 officers of the accountability table. Andrea Austin, the co-chairs Dr. Samir Sinha, and Councillor Joss Matlow. They have enabled me to continue as a lifelong learner to keep learning and growing as a senior volunteer. So from the bottom of my heart, I humbly thank this outstanding reward, and thank you for the 4 minutes I think it took me. I have to say it.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Thank you, Francis. Mayor Tory, I understand that you wish to make a brief announcement at this time.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I wanted to take an opportunity that we have at the beginning of our meeting today to acknowledge and introduce a valuable new member of the Toronto Public Service. This is the first City Council meeting for Michael Colm, the city's new Chief Transformation Officer, and I've asked if Michael would please stand up and be recognized. I think working with the Government Management Committee and with Councillor Carmichael Greb, which I'll come back to, this is a very, very important appointment made by our City Manager, Peter Wallace, which is going to help us to make up for lost time, frankly, in moving the city to a more modern and efficient and innovative delivery of public services for our residents in a way that maximizes the dollars, but even more importantly, delivers better services to people using the latest technology. There's a culture that I think sets into lots of big organizations, inside and outside of government, that says, well, this is the way we've always done it, and there's a kind of resistance to introducing new thinking and new technology and so on. And this, in fact, empowers and helps public servants or staff in other kinds of organizations when they can have the full opportunity to be as innovative as possible. So Michael will be working with the City Manager, with the Government Management Committee, and with Councillor Carmichael Greb to get us to a stage where we're on a more citizen-focused, service-driven, technologically innovative approach to delivering government services. And we're on that path, but let's be candid. We're way behind lots of other organizations, government and otherwise, and there's lots of room for us to catch up. And a lot of this is about collaboration. You know, better working as between departments, better working with innovators and people in the private sector who have come up with new ideas. And I think Councillor Carmichael Greb understands there is no conflict between serving the public effectively and spending money wisely and innovating all at the same time. It is possible to do all of those things and to have that kind of collaboration going on. So I really just want to say, Michael, thank you very much for joining the team. Welcome to your first council meeting. You are not allowed to change your mind after the first council meeting. It's too late. Peter, thank you for City Manager for introducing this vital position and championing this process, and thank you, Councillor Kristen Carmichael Greb, for agreeing to take on a responsibility for helping to champion this, which I think when we have a councillor that's dedicated to doing something like this, working with the Government Management Committee and others, it just helps to keep things moving where sometimes they often slow down. I think this is a very important step forward for the city. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to welcome Councillor Hart to the first council meeting. Welcome. Councillor McMahon.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to introduce some guests we have in the chamber from Japan. We just missed the mayor. He had to go catch his flight, but he was the mayor of Katanoshi, which is a sister city of Collingwood, my hometown. And I have Taiko Nagai and Masanao Nagai. Taiko was the first ever Japanese exchange student to Collingwood 33 years ago. She lived in my house. She's never been the same. Toronto e yokoso, yukuri asonde kudasai. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Doucette.
If I could speak from here, that would be great, and I do need the overhead, please. Is the overhead? Perfect. So, through you, Madam Speaker, I want to thank the world today for getting involved in our city. As you can see, we had 44,817 people vote on the final names for Bonnie and Clyde. For those of you who don't know who Bonnie and Clyde are, those are the capybaras in Hyde Park Zoo. They had 3 pups. Once they got back into the zoo, they got together. I'll give you the children's version. They got together and had 3 pups. So Friends of Hyde Park Zoo put out a request for names. 12,600 names were recommended for these 3 pups. So to narrow it down, the Friends of Hyde Park Zoo came up with, as you can see, those suggestions. This is where people voted. So don't think people just look at us from Toronto. They look at us from the world. So last weekend, before the long weekend, we were honored to actually announce the winning names. And as you can see, 32,519 people chose Alex, Geddy, and Neil. For those of you who haven't lived in Toronto all your life or have lived under a stone, those are the names of Rush. It came very close with Snap, Crackle, and Pop with 9,190 votes, which Kellogg's got behind thinking it was a wonderful idea. So Rush has now said they are thrilled to have their names as capybaras. The only problem Geddy had was he couldn't identify which one was him because they weren't wearing glasses. So I just want to remind everybody that Alex, Geddy, and Neil, with their parents Bonnie and Clyde, are thrilled to be members of Toronto City, and we welcome anyone to the zoo at any point in time, which is free. And obviously visit Hyde Park, lots of wonderful things to do. So thank you very much for letting me give some good news at the start of a very, very long council meeting.
Thank you. I will now call for a motion to confirm the minutes. Councillor Karygiannis, you have a motion on the minutes from the last 2 meetings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That City Council confirmed the minutes of Council from regular meeting held on May 24, 25, and 26, 2017, and special meeting held on June 28, 2017, in the form supplied to the members.
All those in favor? Carry. Members of Council, we have the following administrative inquiries from Councillor Ainsley before us today. Administrative Inquiry 31.1 regarding Military Trail Road closure from Ellesmere Road to High Castle Road for emergency road and water main repair. Administrative Inquiry 31.2 regarding Toronto Fire Services open data. And Administrative Inquiry 31.3 regarding Toronto Paramedic Services. The answers to these inquiries were distributed with your supplementary material last week. May I have a motion to receive the inquiries and answers for information? Councillor Ainsley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the first one, I'd like to move a motion that it be received for information.
Okay. Okay, on 31.1. All in favor? Carried.
I have a motion on the second one that this item be referred to the Community Development Recreation Committee for consideration.
All in favor? Carried.
And the third one, I also have a motion that the item be referred to the Community Development and Recreation Committee for consideration.
All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call upon the committee chairs to introduce the reports. The chairs can speak about the reports for up to 5 minutes. Mayor Tory, you have a motion to introduce the Executive Committee report.
I do, Madam Speaker, that the report from meeting 26 of the Executive Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration. It was quite a meeting. When I say we dealt with a number of items, we met until I think 12:30 in the morning, but I want to thank the members of the committee, and in particular there were members of the public who on some items had to wait until very late into the evening to make their deputations, and I'll just highlight 2 of the items here. First of all, we will be dealing in this meeting, Madam Speaker, with the item that recommends the implementation of a transit priority project along King Street. This, as I think many members know, is the busiest transit route on the surface in the city, moving more than 65,000 riders on an average weekday compared to 20,000 cars. But as everybody knows, and as I go around talking to people, because a lot of people raise it with me, I will tell you I don't find one person that says they think King Street is working now. And so that's a good starting place at which to take a look at doing something that is different and that is out of, it's not necessarily, it's out of the box relative to things we've done in the past, but everybody, including car drivers, transit riders, pedestrians, say that street is not working properly at the moment. And we're working every day here, and I've taken, as you know, a keen interest in this, at improving ways people can get around the city, whether by transit, by car, on foot, by cycling, or otherwise. And so if we take the fact that it's not working, then the time has come to try something bigger and different and perhaps a little bolder. I don't think it's that bold, but the bottom line is that it's going to be doing something to improve transit reliability, transit speed, and capacity on the busiest surface route in the entire city. And the staff have put a plan in place to mitigate the impacts this will have on people who will be impacted, because when you make change, you're going to have some impact. But I think only if we try this on a pilot project basis will we know whether this kind of thing can work to move more people better and faster in the city. The second item that I want to mention this morning that we dealt with was at the Executive Committee was to approve recommendations and recommend them in turn to you to begin the transformation of the Toronto Community Housing Corporation. The task force that I appointed shortly after I took office made recommendations, and that recommended basically 2 major strategic directions to improve the quality of housing and the quality of life for social housing tenants living in TCHC. The first was the creation of a new seniors housing and services entity that is more directly accountable to City Council, but more so than the direct accountability, it focuses, I hope with a laser-like focus, on the particular and sometimes different and certainly sometimes increased needs of seniors, so that we can focus on that, and the needs not just with regard to housing, but also providing for a much greater collaboration and cooperation with other entities, including other governments involved in the provision of much-needed services to seniors. And so this new entity would be responsible for the management of the 83 seniors buildings that are within the portfolio of TCHC. And the second thing, and it goes along with it and cannot be separated from it, is the redefining and revitalizing of TCHC as a landlord with a smaller housing portfolio and a more focused mandate. So the same kind of laser-like focus has to be focused on the other non-seniors TCHC buildings, if I can call them that, and making sure that TCHC is better able to focus on its core responsibilities as a social housing landlord, operating and maintaining better buildings in a way that is better than is the case now, planning for the future, and connecting tenants to social and economic opportunities so they can thrive. We know from the task force, we know from our day-to-day travels across the city, I say we in the collective sense, that we can and must do better for TCHC and more particularly for its tenants. The status quo is not an option. And I think this report represents the next step, and it's still only a first in a series of steps to transform this entity and to make sure that we deal not only with the demographic changes that are taking place in the city as we get more and more seniors in need of more and more wraparound services, including excellent housing from TCHC, but also to make sure we apply the same attention to serving the needs of families, young people, and vulnerable tenants who live in the remainder of the portfolio that is not devoted to seniors. So I look forward to the discussion today and on these items and all the other items, but those are two that I wanted to highlight from a very lengthy meeting of the Executive Committee. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday, you have a motion to introduce the Audit Committee report.
I do. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Speaker. That the report from meeting 9 of the Audit Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration. And I just wanted to point out to members that there were 16 audit items, a few of them that are standouts. AU 9.9, the Real Estate Services Division, restore focus on Union Station leasing, which was a retrospective look at a number of processes and transactions that may or may not have occurred at this point in time and the costs associated with that, but most importantly, speaks to the strategy of Union Station and a vision for the future, and that's exactly what needs to be developed for 165,000 square feet of space in this very important civic asset. And the importance of having a strategy and a vision means that we will maximize that asset and minimize the cost to taxpayers in this city for its operation. I'd also like to point out AU 9.10, the supplementary report of the Auditor General's Phase 1 report. The city needs to ensure adequate detection and review of potentially excessive and unusual drug claims. This is the latest in a series of audits done by the auditor on drug claims. Why this is very important is yes, it does speak about erectile dysfunction drugs that captured a lot of headlines, but what captured less headlines was the discussion of the opioids. And the auditor makes some recommendations about processes around these drugs to ensure that they are safeguarded. And of course, opioids contain drugs such as fentanyl, which we know are drugs that are very, very risky for health, although very, very necessary in some circumstances. AU 9.11 is a review of Toronto Transit Commission procurement policies and practices. Improving materials management and purchasing policies can potentially result in significant savings. This was a very, very lengthy and complex audit which looked at a number of aspects of procurement at the Toronto Transit Commission. But most notably, it talked about parts. It talked about aftermarket parts. It talked about core charges. It talked about different procurement strategies. Why this is important, there's potentially millions of dollars of savings that may be realized in how the TTC gathers parts and installs them in its equipment. This is important because more money for the TTC means more vehicles on the road and more money to fund operations. But also, if you think about the other dimension, as vehicles are sitting idle and there's not parts to fill the gap and having them repaired, these vehicles are sitting in garages and not out on the street. So this is a dimension of cost savings and also a dimension of better service for Torontonians. And finally, audit AU 9.12, which is the Auditor General's observations of a land acquisition at Finch Avenue West and Arrow Road by the Toronto Parking Authority, Part 2. This was a retrospective look at a transaction that actually did not occur. But I will point out to members there was a change here where a confidential attachment has now been placed in the public domain, and I will make note to members that it is a lengthy report and is extremely complex, to the point that it went through 3 rounds of questioning. These 4 items that I just discussed at Audit Committee, despite 16 items, basically took up the entire day. So if I can leave members with a message, these audit reports are quite lengthy and complex. If myself as Chair of Audit or any members of the Audit Committee could be of service to help you, if you have any questions, please ask them. I know our agenda is quite lengthy, and I'll do everything I can to help you get the answers so that we can have an efficient debate on these matters. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Minawang, you have a motion to introduce the Civic Appointments Committee report.
Yes, thank you. I'll move that the report for meeting 17 of the Civic Appointments Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak, you have a motion to introduce the Community Development and Recreation Committee report.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. The report from meeting 21 of the Community Development and Recreation Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson, you have a motion to introduce the Economic Development Committee report.
Thank you, Speaker, and good morning. That the report for meeting 22 of Economic Development Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration. And Speaker, I'd just like to briefly highlight one report on the agenda, which is ED 22.8, and it's from the Toronto Employment and Social Services, which highlights some of the challenges that are taking place with respect to some of our vulnerable individuals who TESS is attempting to help. You'll note that there is a 11% decrease in terms of the number of cases that TESS is dealing with and so on. But what is really important here with respect to this particular report, it actually addresses the issue dealing with individuals who are staying longer on Toronto Employment and Social Services role as such. They are individuals who are more difficult to place in terms of jobs in the labor market. There are a number of barriers that are creating opportunity, that are lacking the opportunities for these people to be helped. Some of the issues relating to these individuals are health-related, a lack of education, some of the issue relating to Canadian experiences and so on. And I simply want to leave members with the fact that our professional team, and led by General Manager Patricia Walcott, has identified a number of ways in which to seek to help these individuals. There will be some challenges because these individuals will be on our social employment role for some longer period of time. That will eventually cost us much more resources as such. But I can simply say that there's a lot of work. There are a number of procedures that are being brought into place in order to try to help these individuals. And I think that we have an obligation to ensure that they're assisted. And I know that the team is ready and willing and able to address the challenges that are faced by a number of Torontonians who are finding it really difficult to gain employment for the reasons which I've listed, Speaker. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ainsley, you have a motion to introduce the Government Management Committee report.
Good morning, everyone. That the report from meeting 21 of the Government Management Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Palacio, you have a motion to introduce the Licensing and Standards Committee report.
Good morning, Speaker. Yes, I do. Good morning, everyone. That the report from meeting 20 of the Licensing and Standards Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor McMahon, you have a motion to introduce the Parks and Environment Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, that the report from meeting 20 of the Parks and Environment Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor DiCiano, you have a motion to introduce the Planning and Growth Management Committee report.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning. That the report for meeting 21 of the Planning and Growth Management Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration. I'd like to just look at or point out two reports, PG 21.3, Growing Up, Planning for Children, New Vertical Communities, Draft Guidelines. Very, very important guidelines that are coming forward. I encourage every councillor here to take an in-depth look at how we plan on building high-rise buildings in the future in the city, and if you've got those types of developments in your ward, to really gain some knowledge from this report, as well as the Portland's Planning Initiative interim report. Council here or Planning and Growth has made a recommendation to take this to the next step. As many of you know, there's going to be 50 years of growth of how new communities are built and how people are going to live, play, and work in a new area of Toronto. So two very important items here before us today. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson, you have a motion to introduce Public Parks and Infrastructure Committee report.
No, Public Works.
Public Works, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That the report from meeting 22 of the Public Works and Infrastructure Committee listed on the agenda of Council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong, you have a motion to introduce the Striking Committee report.
Thank you that the report for meeting 13 of the Striking Committee listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Grimes, you have a motion to introduce the Etobicoke York Community Council report.
Yes, I do, and good morning, Madam Speaker. That the report from meeting 23 of the Etobicoke York Community Council listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Al-Jameer, you have a motion to introduce the North York Community Council report.
Thank you that the report from meeting 23 of the North York Community Council listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Holland, you have a motion to introduce the Scarborough Community Council report.
Yes, good morning, Madam Speaker. That the report from meeting 23 of Scarborough Community Council listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration.
Thank you. Councillor Wong Tam, you have a motion to introduce the Toronto and East York Community Council report.
Yes, I do, Madam Speaker. Thank you very much, and good morning, councillors. I would like to move that the report from meeting 25 of the Toronto and East York Community Council listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration, and to also note that TEYCC dealt with 141 items. I want to thank my Vice Chair, Councillor Fragedakis, for helping me conclude the agenda. It was a very long agenda for us, and I want to just thank her for that. I had to leave early, but also just to thank the clerks once again for their extraordinary work at helping us shepherd through all those items. It actually is 50% of more work, more items than what is dealt with at Etobicoke York. North York Community Council does 30%. And Scarborough Community Council does 20%. We only do this largely to highlight, once again, the volume of work that actually takes place. And there is one particular item on the TYCC agenda I want to also bring some attention to, and that is TE 24.72, traffic control signals at Richmond Street West and Simcoe Street. This is located in Ward 20. This report has been before our committee, our community council, now 3 times. It's been tabled by staff 3 times to try to keep those communities safer, and it's been supported by Toronto East York Community Council 3 times. And this is, of course, our 3rd attempt to get this through. Hopefully that will pass today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Hart, you have a motion to introduce the new business and business previously requested from the mayor and city officials.
Thank you, Speaker. I move that the new business and business previously requested from city officials listed on the agenda of council be presented for consideration. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, yes, all those in favor of the motions, recorded vote.
Councillor Fillion, please.
Councillor Wong Tam. Councillor Barlow, when you're seated, please.
The motion to introduce the committee reports and other business carries unanimously 41 in favor.
Are there any declarations of interest at this time? Please indicate the committee, the item or motion number, and the nature of the interest. Councillor Matlow.
Madam Speaker, I've consulted with the Integrity Commissioner in relation to item LS 20.1, prohibited animal review. I've been advised that in consideration of the principles of the Code of Conduct, I should not participate in the debate and vote on item LS 20.1 because my spouse works for an organization that has taken a position on the outcome and participated in the city staff consultation.
Thank you. Councillor Hart.
Speaker, on page 4, EX 26.2, Tenants First, and EX 26.1, TCHC Annual General Meeting. My spouse works at TCHC.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Ajamari.
Thank you. Page 13. The first two items of North York Community Council Meeting 23, NY 23.1 and NY 23.2, both respecting 18 to 30 Erskine Avenue, as I have property in the immediate area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pasternak.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. In an abundance of caution, I'd like to declare an interest. Page 6, item EX 26.36, Toronto Public Library, 2017 capital budget, 2018-26 capital plan adjustments, as my spouse, although on leave, is technically still an employee of Toronto Public Library.
Thank you. I will now call for petitions. Are there any petitions at this time? Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, Speaker, I have a petition here from members in the East End, Wards 30 and 32, who are very grateful for the donations from developers to open Armstrong Pool.
Thank you. Councillor Carmichael Greb.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a petition with 142 signatures. It says, "We, the undersigned, urge you to adopt the Transform TO 2050 Climate Action Plan in its entirety. At the July 4th City Council meeting, this climate action plan will reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050 in accordance with our international obligations to keep temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius. We further urge that you give the highest priority to the consideration of climate change mitigation, resiliency, and adaptation in all council decisions."
Thank you. Councillor McMahon.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I have a petition from 157 people with we, the undersigned, urge you to champion and counsel the adoption of an aggressive plan of climate action for the City of Toronto, honoring the commitments made at the signing of in Paris City Hall at the Declaration December 4th, 2015. And so it's in support of Transform TO. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Speaker. I have a petition with 351 signatures to replace the existing PXO at the intersection of Cosburn and Cedarville with traffic control signals. We, the undersigned, are concerned East York residents who urge the City of Toronto to act now, whereas the intersection of Cosburn and Cedarville Avenues have been the site of several serious accidents, including fatalities, and whereas these streets are adjacent to an arena, community center, swimming pool, school, skate park, dog park, baseball, soccer fields, and curling rink, and whereas we want our streets and intersections to be safe for crossing, therefore, we, the undersigned, call on the City of Toronto to replace existing pedestrian crossover signals at the intersection with traffic control signals and undertake other traffic control measures to ensure that Stanwadlow neighborhood is safer for pedestrians. And I'd like to thank the family of Jay Blue for their participation. She was tragically killed at this intersection. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a petition that is a continuation of the petition read by Councillor Carmichael Greb of 177 additional signatures to the same petition. We, the undersigned, urge you to adopt the Transform TO 2050 Climate Action Plan in its entirety at the July 4th City Council meeting. Climate Action Plan will reduce greenhouse gas emissions 80% by 2050 if followed to the letter in accordance with our international obligations to keep temperature rises to well below 2 degrees Celsius. We further urge that you give the highest priority to the consideration of climate change mitigation, resiliency, and adaptation in all council decisions. And I thank the managers of the petition for spelling my name right. Thank you.
Councillor Wong Tam.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to place before Council a petition to reinstate the Community Advisory Committee on Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, and Transgender Issues and to increase city funding to community-based HIV/AIDS programming. In December 1999, Toronto City Council approved the establishment of a citywide advisory committee on lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender issues. This committee was disassembled in 2006, and the city has been without this important voice for over 10 years. The advisory committee must be immediately reinstated. In May 2017, the Toronto Urban Health Fund reduced funding to several community-based organizations, including HIV/AIDS prevention funding in marginalized community. This includes programming for communities of color, women, and trans people. The City of Toronto needs to increase the funding for HIV/AIDS prevention now, and there are 271 signatures. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Members, I will now review the order paper. We have 4 deferred committee items on this agenda. LS 19.1, amendments to Chapter 693 signs. P 19.4, transform TO. NY 22.4, final report on the zoning amendment application for 90 Eglinton Avenue West and 17 and 19 Henning Avenue. T 24.72, traffic control signals at Richmond Street West and Simcoe Street. The mayor has designated the following items as his key matters for this meeting. The first key item will be item EX 26.2, headed Tenants First Phase 1 Implementation Plan, and the second matter will be deferred item PN 19.4, headed Transform TO. These will be our first and second item of business today. Notices of motions are scheduled to be dealt with at 2 p.m. tomorrow, only if the mayor's key items have been completed. I propose that City Council set a time for a closed session, if required, later in this meeting. Members of Council, before I take additional holds, the City Clerk has advised me that item CC 31.21 on appointments to the Investment Board needs to be withdrawn. The Facilities and Finance Panel has deferred the matter and therefore won't be submitting its recommendations to this meeting that will be withdrawn from this agenda. Also, members, I've also like to advise by the City Solicitor that the notice pending report on the appeal decision regarding the Toronto District School Board versus Cogeco, item CC 31.23, needs to be withdrawn from the agenda as well.
MM 31.21, promoting diversity.
No.
Thank you. Thank you.
CC 31.23.
CMM, but all just a bunch of letters. Turn off your mic.
CC 3121, Councillor Ojameri.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. The City Clerk has noted the items that members wish to hold. I will not go through the items listed on the order paper to take additional holds. I will recognize requests to make matters urgent and time-specific after I go through the items for additional holds. Once the order paper has been approved by Council, any change will need a 2/3 vote. Page 3. Councillor Holliday?
Sorry, there's nothing on page 3, Madam Speaker.
Pardon?
I don't think there's anything available to hold on page 3.
Yes, there is. So you have nothing on page 3. Okay. Councillor Karagianis, page 3.
Page 4, Madam Speaker.
Mayor Tory, page 3.
Yes, Madam Speaker. EX 26.25, I have a motion.
Oh, that's on page 4.
Oh, maybe I'm looking at an old version. It's on page 3 of mine. I'm sorry.
I've got page 3. I don't know. Do we all have different pages?
No, it's probably me looking.
Okay.
Nothing to hold on page 3.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Page 4, Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to hold EX 26.4, implementing a vacant home tax in Toronto.
26.4, yes.
26.4, Councillor Holliday wants to hold. Mayor Tory.
It's page 5 on these sheets, so I'll 26.25.
How come you have a different page?
Pardon me?
Still getting in his groove this morning.
No, but you called on me. I put my name there, but
Oh,
for
you're on
page 5,
page,
it's
you
just
want to go
left
to
on
page.
from before. I'm sorry.
Page 5, okay, so I'm at page 4 now. So Councillor Fletcher, page 4?
Yes,
Okay.
I am. 2611, Toronto Community Housing Corporation Annual General Meeting and 2016 Audited Financial Statements.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Actually, I don't really want to hold it. EX 26.6, I sent the amendment to the center desk. Are you ready? No, then I'll hold it then.
Okay, you'd like to hold it, EX 26.6?
Everything. I know,
Okay. Councillor Carroll.
I'm sorry to take it almost to the entire page, Madam Speaker, but EX 26.9, the wind-up of Investio, I just need to finish the confidentials. I'll release it later.
Thank you. Page 5. Okay. Councillor Bailão.
I have an amendment for 26.17, and I wouldn't mind releasing it as a quick item if everybody's fine with it.
Do the staff have your amendment?
Yep.
Do we have it?
No, it's not ready? Okay, I'll stand it down.
Councillor Ainsley.
EX 26.20, 2017 levy on railway, roadways, and right-of-way on power utility transmission and distribution corridors.
Mayor Tory.
26.25 EX 26.25 Aboriginal Office for the City of Toronto. I have a motion that I'll make in due course, Madam Speaker.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wong Tam.
I believe the mayor just held the item. It's EX 26.25. Is that the one? Okay, thank you. That was what I was going to hold.
Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, EX 26.33, Transportation Services 2017 Capital Budget Adjustments.
Thank you. Now on page 5, I held an item EX 26.15. I would just like to release it. I just want to ask for a recorded vote. 731 Runnymede Road, the emergency shelter. Okay, recorded vote.
Councillor Fillion, please.
Councillor Wong Tam.
The item carries 40-2.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday, are you on page 5? Okay, page 6. Councillor Holliday?
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to hold AU 9.10 supplementary report to the Auditor General's Phase 1 report. The city needs to ensure adequate detection and review of potentially excessive and unusual drug claims. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fillion?
I'd like to, on EX 26.34, declare a conflict of interest as I am currently being sued by someone who may still own properties at this location.
So you're holding on page 6 EX?
No, I'm declaring a conflict.
Oh, you're declaring a conflict?
Yeah, declaring
okay,
conflict.
I'm sorry.
All
right.
34.
Can we vote on it, Madam Speaker?
So I'll leave the room for...
Well, let's wait until, do you want to do it now or after?
Okay, thank you.
What do you want to do?
Okay, we can do it now then, Councillor
They're doing it
Fillion.
now.
Yeah. Okay, on page 6, EX 26.34, if we can ask for a recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 41 in favor.
Councillor Holliday, you've already... Yeah, okay. Okay, we're going to go to page 7 now. Councillor Holliday?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to hold AU 9.12, Auditor General's observations of a land acquisition at Finch Avenue West and Arrow Road by the Toronto Parking Authority, Part 2, and CA 17.2, appointment of public members to the Toronto Parking Authority Board.
Thank you. Councillor Crawford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to hold CD 21.9 funding formula for occupancy grants, Ward All.
Thank you. Councillor DeGiorgio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to hold item CD 21.6.
Read the title, Frank.
Thank you. Okay, page 8. Councillor Palacio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. CD 21.12, Community Service Partnership, one-time transition funding recommendations for Ward 12 and 17.
Thank you. It's on page 8, CD 21.12. Councillor Palacio is holding down. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. On page 8, item CD 21.13, update on city-supported community-led violence prevention and intervention.
Thank you. Councillor Wong Tam.
It's ED 22.9, amendments to the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 19, business improvement areas.
Okay.
Which one was that?
Councillor Carroll, are you on page 8? Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. ED 22.8, a profile of Toronto's evolving Ontario Works caseload profile.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson. I want to remind members of council we do want to finish by Friday. Councillor Robinson.
Yes, page 8, CD 21.10, Child Care and Early Years Act and Education Act, next steps.
Thank you. Page 9. Page 10. Oh, are you on page 9, Councillor Perruzza? No? Councillor Perruzza, what page?
Page 7.
Well, we're at page 9.
I understand that. I'm just following along, so I got my name on there, and so page 7, CA 17.1, appointment of a public member to the TTC board to fill a vacancy. I'd like to hold that, please.
I'm sorry, which one is it?
You have it listed in the agenda as CA 17.1. That's the Civic Appointments Committee.
Yes, okay.
And the item reads, appointment of a public member to the TTC board to fill a vacancy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Al-Jamari, we're on page 10.
Parks and Environment, item 4, movie nights.
Page 9.
Sorry.
You're going to page 9. Okay. Page 9P 20.4. Councillor Al-Jamari?
Yes.
Page 10. Page 11. Okay, everybody's put their name up there. Is this for page 10? I mean, yes, but Councillor Fletcher said she has page 10. Okay. Yeah, it's just that people are putting their names up before I mentioned. I know. But Councillor Fletcher has page 10. Councillor Fletcher on page 10?
Thank you, Speaker. PG 21.17, Planning and Age-Friendly Toronto.
Yeah, it's already been held.
Oh, I'm holding it already. Thank you. Very good.
Okay, we're going to page 11. I feel like we're at page 4. Page 11, Councillor Thompson.
Yes, Speaker. PW 22.6, Eglinton Crosstown LRT Long-Term Road Amendments, Kennedy Station.
Thank you. Councillor Perks.
Thank you, Speaker, and good morning. PW 22.5, Front Yard Parking Regulations, Wards All.
Thank you. Councillor de Beermaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On page 11 of the Green Sheets, under the Striking Committee, ST 13.4, 2018 Schedule of Meetings.
Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. On page 11, PW 22.9, Streetcar Service on Queen Street.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher?
Gone.
Oh, what happened? Your name came on. Okay. Deputy Mayor Minnan-Wong.
Yes, I'd like to hold ST 13.1, appointment to fill a vacancy on the Audit Committee, and ST 13.3, council member appointments to the Heritage Nominating Panel.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to hold ST 13.2, appointment to fill a vacancy on the Budget Committee.
Page 12. Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd just like to ask for a recorded vote on EY 23.10, application to remove a private tree at 2402, 2404 Bloor Street West, and a recorded vote on 2311, application to remove a private tree, 14 Lethbridge Avenue.
Okay, let's do them now.
No debate.
Okay, on EY 23.10.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor Perruzza, your vote, please.
The item is adopted 37-6.
On EY 23.11, recorded vote.
Councillor Ainsley, thank you. Councillor Robinson, please. Councillor Mahavik.
The item is adopted 35-8.
Councillor Grimes, on page 12.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. EY 23.63, endorsement of events for liquor licensing purposes. I have an amendment. It should be quick. I think just to add a couple of events in Councillor Doucette's ward. The clerk's asked me to move, and I believe the motion is ready.
The motion ready? Okay.
I believe it is, yep.
Okay, on the amendment, on favor, carried. Item is amended, on favor, carried. Thank you. Councillor Pasternak, page 12.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. In accordance with Section 2760 of Council Procedures, the City Council remove item NY 23.43 headed Commercial Boulevard Parking Fees. We're trying to get a daycare started at this address.
What page are you on?
No, it's not a page-related item. It's a procedural item, but it's North York Community Council, so it's technically... I rely on clerk's advice on when to move it and how to move it, and I'm following their advice.
Okay, well, let's at least hold it till we get to North York or at the end of the order paper. Okay, we'll do it at the end. We'll do it at the end. Councillor DeGiorgio.
I'm on page 13, Madam Chair.
Well, I'm on page 12. Anybody else on page 12? Okay, clear the board. We'll go to page 13.
Yeah, I'd like to hold.
Okay, just one sec, please. Press your button.
It's on.
Councillor DeGiorgio, what item on page 13?
Item E, or top of the page, item EY 23.73.
Thank you. Page 14, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to hold NY 23.11, request for direction, zoning bylaw amendment, draft plan of subdivision and site plan applications, 901 Lawrence Avenue West, 3050 and 3010 Dufferin Street, and 40 Playfair Avenue.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd just like a recorded vote on NY 23.45, representation at a Toronto local appeal body hearing for 241 Points Avenue.
Okay. Recorded vote on NY 23.45.
Councillor Palacio, please. Councillor Grisanti. Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Carroll, Councillor Thompson, and Councillor Pasternak, please. And Councillor Kelly.
Councillor Mihevc, please.
The item is adopted 42 to 1.
Councillor Aljamari.
NY 23.30, endorsement of events for liquor licensing purposes. Staff have my amendment.
Okay, we can put the amendment on the screen.
And I've run this by local councillors, Shelley Carroll and Denzelman and Wong. It's with respect to the Armenian Community Center at 45 Hall Crown Place.
Okay. On the amendment, on favor? Recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please. Councillor McMahon.
Councillor Fletcher and Councillor Burnside, thank you.
The amendment carries unanimously, 43 in favor.
Item is amended. On favor? Carried. Page 15, Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to hold TE 25.5, 357 King Street West zoning amendment application, and TE 25.11, 1955-1985 Young Street 3 Belsize Drive, and 18-22 Millwood Road site plan control application final report.
Which one was the last one, Councillor Holliday? I didn't.
TE 25.11 and
Yes.
TE 25.5.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Fragadakis.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's item TE 25.8, 796 to 802 Broadview Avenue zoning amendment application final report. I just have a couple of questions of staff.
Thank you. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. Item TE 25.6, 25 Leonard Avenue official plan amendment.
Thank you. Page 16. Okay, can you please clear the screen? Wait till we get the screen cleared and then, okay, so on page 16, if you can put your name up. Okay, Councillor Wong Tam.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. The item is TE 25.14. It's the top of the page on page 16, 59 and 71 Mutual Street, zoning amendment application and rental housing demolition application. Request for a directions report and final report.
Thank you. Councillor Holliday.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. I'd just like a recorded vote on TE 25.36, application to remove a private tree at 8 Hillingdon Avenue, and a recorded vote on TE 25.37, application to remove a private tree, 501 Kingston Road.
Okay, on T 25.36, recorded vote.
Councillor Mamalidi, Councillor Crisanti, Councillor Cole, please.
Councillor Perks and Councillor Carroll, please. Councillor Wong Tam.
The item is adopted, 38 to 5.
T 25.37, recorded vote.
Councillor Palacio, Councillor Fillion, and Councillor Crawford, please.
Councillor Lee, thank you. Councillor Carroll. Councillor Ojimeri.
The item is adopted, 39 to 4.
Councillor Baila.
Yes, Madam Speaker. T 2517 20 Perth Avenue, Block 1 of 158 Sterling Road, zoning amendment application. Final report.
Thank you.
Removal of the holding of the H.
Okay, we'll clear the screen. Page 17. Page 18. Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd like to hold TE 25.95, traffic control signals, Cosburn Avenue and Cedar. Pardon me.
It's
Thank
already
you.
been held.
Yeah, I read the wrong line. I'm sorry about that. TE 25.108, which is bringing laneway suites to the Toronto and East York District, Ward 18 and 32. I'd like to hold that.
Thank you. Councillor Fragadakis.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. Item TE 25.110, endorsement of events for liquor licensing purposes.
Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. Item TE 25.116, 422 to 424 Wellington Street West zoning amendment application.
Thank you. Councillor Wong Tam.
Madam Speaker, I believe it was just held by Councillor Fragedakis. TE 25.110. I know that the clerks have an amendment at some point.
Councillor Fragadakis held the item down.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Tory.
I apologize, Madam Speaker. Back on 1725, TE 25.66 and 25.68. I'd like to hold those two, please.
Page 17. Okay, thank you. If we can clear the screen, please. Page 19. Councillor Doucette.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Page 19, as you mentioned, CC 31.3, Ombudsman Toronto report, investigation on the city's process of handling development charges, complaints, and education development charge complaints. And at some point, I'd like to put it at the same time as another report, but I'll do that later.
Page 20. We can clear the screen, please. Page 20. Page 21. Councillor Layton.
My apologies, Madam Speaker. It was an item on page 20. The item was CC 31.13, court decision regarding Clarity Outdoor.
CC 31.13 on page 20. Councillor Grimes, page 21.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. CC 31.22, 68 Daisy Avenue, waiting for the solicitor's report is due, and CC 31.24, relocation of a concrete batching facility.
Thank you.
22.
CC 31.22 and CC 31.24. Councillor Grimes is holding. Councillor Wong Tam.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I believe you skipped ahead to page 21. I'm still sitting on page 20. If I can ask that we go back one page. It's CC 31.16, 874 to 878 Yonge Street and 3 to 11 Schollard Street, request for instructions. I'd like to hold that as well as CC 31.11, approval for non-competition purchase order to Learners LLPs for additional proceedings arising out from rent arbitration, 2 Bloor Street East.
11 o'clock. We haven't even...
Okay, we're on page 21. Councillor Fillion.
On page 20, CC 31.17, 57, 69, 61, and 63 Finch Avenue West, request for direction report.
Councillor Matlow, we're on page 21.
So am I.
Oh, thank God.
Madam Speaker, page 21, MM 31.1, it's already been waived, so I'm going to hold it.
I'm sorry, which one? I didn't hear it.
MM 31.1, do I understand correctly, given that it's already been waived, should I hold it now?
No, you.
Yes, yes. It was waived last meeting.
Yeah. So what is it you want? You want to hold it down?
Yes,
Oh,
please.
okay. I didn't hear you. It's Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Speaker. Unfortunately, I'm on page 19.
Okay, please.
Once it was waived.
Okay, just a sec. Councillor Fletcher.
I'm just not clear which motion did Councillor Matlow hold?
Members' motion 31.1. This was from the last meeting. I don't know, we've... Oh, okay. The reason why, because we normally don't hold members' motions down, but the reason because it was deferred from the last meeting, so it's actually before us, and that's why it's being held down. Okay. It's a deferred item from the last meeting, so it's actually there on the agenda. That's what I've been told by the clerk. Councillor Mamlidi?
Just to be clear, it is on the agenda, and
Yes.
we will be dealing with it today.
Yes.
Okay.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. Councillor Fletcher?
Could
Well,
that
not
also-
today, but this year. Councillor Fletcher?
The deferred items that I'm looking at are on page 3 and 4.
This one is on page 21, and it does, it does say we deferred it in May.
So is there some reason, are we not going to deal with that as part of the deferred items, Speaker?
Yes. Yeah, because those are committee items. That's why it's at the beginning of the page, and this is
I
members'
see.
motion.
I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know, this is the first time it's happened.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, we're on page 21.
And I'm on page 19, unfortunately. Page 19.
We're going to get the council agenda will be completed by Friday. Councillor Davis?
CC 31.9, implementation strategies for new municipal authorities under Bill 68, including extending the time limit for investigations of Provincial Offences Act charges under the lobbying bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Doucette. Councillor Pasternak.
Thank you,
Well,
Madam
I don't know. Your name disappeared, Councillor Doucette. Hold on, Councillor Doucette. Yes.
Just as a point of order, on page 21, CC 31.23, the appeals decision, it says here the city solicitor's report is due, so I think we need to hold that. Is that?
It's been
okay, sorry, I didn't have it hold. Sorry about that.
No, it's been withdrawn. It was part of the beginning of the meeting.
That's right. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm wondering whether it's okay, whether I can move a motion to take an item from North York Community Council that was deferred at the last meeting. I had to leave because of a medical issue in the family. It was deferred in my absence. I'd like to bring it forward because it's...
Oh, that was the one that you were
That's right, I was
speaking
trying
about earlier? Okay, just, do we have the motion? Okay.
So in accordance with Section 2760 of Council Procedure, City Council will remove item North York 23.43 headed commercial boulevard parking fees, 44 Edinburgh Drive, to create a daycare center from North York Community Council and bring forward the item City Council for consideration.
Okay. On favor? Bringing it forward? Carried, yes. Bringing it forward, yes. So Councillor Carroll wants to hold the item down. Councillor Ainsley, what page are you on?
I'm not. I have an item that I would like to have removed from the Scarborough Community Council agenda and brought forward. I have a motion from clerks. Just to explain why I'm dealing with this, so there's a development in my ward. It's a single-family residential development. There was concerns by the local neighbors adjacent to this property about how they were interacting and some of the landscaping was being done and flooding on homes. They asked me to have the part lot control exemption application deferred until September, which I did. Since then, the developers worked with the adjacent landowners, homeowners, and has resolved the issues. And so I'd like to move this motion, have this item put back on the council agenda and dealt with at this meeting. Thank you.
On favor? Carried. Councillor McMahon?
Hi, I'm just holding an item for Councillor Wong Tam because her buttons aren't working, so she's going to just talk now, if her buttons work.
It's
page 21.
No, not yet. Okay, Councillor McMahon, what is it, Councillor Wong Tam?
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Yeah.
The panel on my desk was not working, which is why I couldn't get the light on.
What page?
It's on page 21. It's MM 31.2, direction to City Planning to form a working group for the development proposal at 183 to 189 Avenue Road and 109 to 111 Pears Avenue. I have a quick amendment, which I don't have prepared, but I will right after lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the item from last.
Yes, yes, it's on page 21. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So that was on page 21, MM 31.2, Councillor Perks. Thank you very much. Yeah. Are there any requests to make an item urgent and time specific? Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. I have two items. First, I have a request that item on page 8, CD 21.16, and item on page 19, CC 31.2, be heard together. I've been advised by clerks that that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Winter readiness under CDR and the Ombudsman's inquiry into winter readiness on CC 31.2.
Right.
So that's the first, and then I have a second.
Okay. On favor? Carried. Okay, Councillor Cressy.
And then the second is it's a request to time page 4 EX 26.1, that's the proposed King Street Transit pilot. Many staff from various departments have to be here, and the request is to have that timed for first thing Thursday morning.
Okay, that's on page 4, EX 26.1. Councillor Cressy is requesting to be dealt with. First item Thursday morning. On favor? Carried. Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have a request to time AU 9.12 Auditor General's observations of a land acquisition at Finch Avenue West and Arrow Road by the Toronto Parking Authority Part 2, and CA 17.2 appointment of public members to the Toronto Parking Authority Board for the first thing tomorrow morning. First item
As long
following
as
the key
mayor's
items.
key items
Right.
are complete.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, on favor? Carried. Councillor Karygiannis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to have PG 21.9 as a timed item, applications for area-specific amendments to the city sign bylaw. Sorry, it's the wrong one. Wrong one. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, so you're not?
No.
Nothing. Okay. Councillor Doucette.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On page 19, CC 31.1, the Ombudsman's report. This was one which was deferred from last meeting to this meeting. When could we do this? First up, Friday. Why don't we do this Thursday after the first item, so let's do second item on Thursday morning. And as you know, I've asked for a presentation on that one. I would like CC 31.3 to be done immediately after it because I do have questions. I'm not asking for a presentation, but I do have questions on that. And if we have the Ombudsman in the room, that'd be a sensible opportunity.
On favor? Carried. All those in favor of adopting the order paper and all items. Okay, just one sec. Councillor Karygiannis.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Just want to go back on page number 10, 21.9. There is an item in there that requires staff from the exhibition coming, and this is why I wanted to have it a specific time. So I didn't realize, and I'm looking for the first available time as a timed item on Thursday afternoon.
Well, we're coming back Friday.
Friday morning, then. Okay. Madam Chair, because it involved staff, staff from the exhibition place, that's why.
All items involve staff. Every item on the agenda involves staff. I say go on.
Huh?
Why don't we just wait until we get closer to that day? Because if you remember at the last council meeting, there were a number of timed items and we didn't get to them.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move it for first thing after lunch on Thursday.
Okay, we can move that, but it's not going to be that we're going to deal with it at that time. That's my point. Okay, Councillor Karygiannis wants to move that motion after lunch Thursday. On favor?
We have a request for a recorded vote from Councillor Layton.
Recorded vote. Members, as you know, even though we make time-specific items, we don't get to them when we're supposed to. So if you want staff to be here, they could be sitting here for hours.
Mayor Tory, Councillor Mamalidi, please. Councillor Mihevc, please.
Councillor Bailao, please. Councillor Matlow and Councillor Lee.
Well, Councillor Karygiannis was asking that staff be here.
Councillor Kelly, please.
Councillor Perks?
Councillor Kelly.
Councillor Karygiannis asked for staff to be here, that's why.
Councillor Kelly, your vote, please.
Exhibition place. Yeah.
The motion carries 31 to 12.
All right, so before we Councillor Layton.
Given that we're going to be discussing that particular side, it may be good for us to hear item CC 31.13 on page 20. After that, this is the court decision respecting Clarity Outdoor in the application of section 771-8.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Does staff have that? Okay, all in favor? Carried. Okay, before we adopt the order paper, that we have two interests. So one is for Councillor Pasternak, EY 26.36. Councillor Pasternak? We'll be voting on that separately. Okay, on EY 26.36, recorded vote.
A ton of cash. We're going to lose it. No money.
EY 26.36, Councillor Pasternak has declared an interest, so we're voting on that separately.
Councillor Mammoliti, please.
Oh, EX, sorry, EX 2636. Marilyn, it's
The item carries unanimously, 42 in favor.
our next is NY 23.1, which Councillor Aljamari, you have an interest in this one, so we're going to vote on yours separately. Recorded vote.
Councillor Mihevc, please. Councillor Mammoliti.
Councillor Wong Tam.
The item carries 39 to 1.
Okay, that's it. All those in favor of adopting the order paper and all items not held, recorded vote.
Councillor Mihevc, please. Thank you.
Councillor Aljamari.
The motion to adopt the order paper carries unanimously, 41 in favor.
Members of Council, I want to stress the importance of preparing your motions in advance. The clerk staff are here to help you prepare your motions. In particular, if you intend to move a motion during the release of holds, I will insist that your motion be prepared in advance and given to the clerk. If you do not have your motion ready, I will not recognize you, and I'm also reminding members that you must state your motion first before you speak to it. Members, City Council follows a routine for the processing and adding of any motions without notice during the meeting. Please remember that a motion without notice must include a reason for urgency. If you have an urgent motion without notice you wish to bring forward at this meeting, please give your motion to the City Clerk staff. They will prepare the necessary procedure motion for my review along with your motion. The Chair must agree the motion is urgent before you can seek leave to introduce it at this meeting. It will require 30 votes to add a motion without notice to the agenda during the meeting. Members of Council, can I please have some quiet in the Council chambers? Councillor Fillion? Motions added to the agenda in this way are not subject to a vote to waive referral to a committee or agency. I will be reviewing all motions carefully, and I will advise Council after each recess which motion needs a motion to add to the agenda. We will now go to the Mayor's first key item, which is EX 26.21. Sorry, EX 26.2. I don't know why I've said that. Tenants first phase implementation plan. Do we have any questions? Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. I just have a few questions. If I could begin by directing my questions to the either the interim CEO of TCHC or the executive director of SDFA. Could you remind us of what the state of good repair backlog is in 2018 and 2019 in numbers?
Just good. Yeah. Just make sure I got the right numbers. The backlog amount in 2018 and 2019 is approximately $1.5 billion of backlog.
And in terms of capital repairs?
In terms of capital repairs, the original 10-year plan envisioned $438 million in building capital repairs in 2018 and $500 million in building capital repairs in 2019.
Okay. One of the recommendations in the report in front of us is for the necessary capital repair funds in 2018 and 2019 to be made available, whether it's by us as an option of last resort as the city, or if we receive it from another level of government. If that money does come, can you assure us that no building units will be closed permanently in 2018 and 2019?
Through the Speaker, yes, I can assure you of that.
Okay. I'll then move over to the Executive Director of SDFA. On the standalone homes, also known as the scattered homes, the recommendation is to go out for an REOI to potential partners in the nonprofit sector, co-ops, land trusts, etc. In this model, how can we guarantee affordability and of those units, as well as to confirm that those units will never be sold without the city's permission?
Through the Speaker, once we complete the REOI and determine the strength of the business case, the cases that come forward, we would come back to Council with advice. That advice would include requirements that properties be retained for housing purposes in perpetuity, and the necessary requirements re-affordability.
All right. So just to be clear, the 684 standalone social housing properties, scattered properties, under this model, it would ensure that they will not be sold. Is that correct?
At this time, that's correct. What we are recommending is that we undertake the REOI to determine the business case strength in maintaining those properties for affordable housing. There is no recommendation to sell.
Thank you. And on the seniors portfolio, the recommendation here for the integration of city programs and services for seniors alongside TCHC, the 83 buildings, the recommendation speaks to more direct accountability to decision. Is that in the form of a division, or what does that look like?
Staff are still undertaking the due diligence to determine exactly what the optimal governance model will be. That will be really dictated by the program model, which we are continuing to work through, should Council support this direction. It will be closer to the city than a single shareholder corporation model. Could be a service agency with more direct accountability or a city division.
Okay. And under this new model, where down the road we will have the seniors portfolio, the standalone homes, and then TCHC, how do we ensure that, does the report speak to tenant reps and tenant engagement across all three? We currently have a tenant rep system in place. If they are under different orders of management, how do we ensure tenant engagement is sustained and aligned across all three?
I don't think there's a recommendation that covers all three. It was the intent of the report as action through recommendation 3A, which talks about strengthened tenant engagement in the new TCHC, and recommendation 7, that directs staff to continue to engage tenants in the work. So a broader motion would be helpful.
So a broader motion speaking to that level of engagement across all three would be helpful?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Councillor Fragadakis.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. Just quickly, I was wondering if we actually had quorum before I start. Oh. Okay, then I'll start. So through you to staff, so the report on page 18 notes that there are approximately the same number of seniors in TCHC designated seniors buildings as there are in mixed buildings. So this plan, though, would also help improve services for seniors who do not live in designated seniors buildings. Is that correct?
That is correct. In fact, the service model we would be developing would provide support to seniors both in the new Seniors Housing and Services entity, other parts of TCHC, and seniors who require that support in non-TCHC buildings.
Okay, I noticed in the summary of the engagement, it notes that some seniors have concerns about being forced to move or being forced to live in seniors-only buildings. So I'm looking for some kind of assurance that these concerns are addressed in this plan.
Through implementation, no one would be forced to move. So I would want to be extremely clear that implementation planning would work around the requirement for anyone to have to leave their home.
Okay. Again, on that page, the report advises many seniors who are currently tenants of TCHC would be better served by a closer affiliation with long-term care homes and services division, whereby service delivery coordination between the two portfolios could more effectively meet their needs and appropriately use the different levels of service. Can you provide some examples of possible positive outcomes of that approach?
There are examples of nonprofit seniors housing that have long-term care facilities built in the same building. Finnish Canadian Seniors Centre, for example, is both a seniors housing as well as a long-term care facility. There may be opportunity to look at those kinds of developments. An excellent example is the George Street revitalization, where we're looking to redevelop long-term care facilities with housing.
So I see a lot of promise in this proposed seniors housing and service entity. Can you elaborate on any senior-specific LIN-funded programs at TCHC buildings?
There are supportive housing services that are actually funded through the city's long-term care homes and services division to provide services in TCHC seniors housing. So to leverage some of those relationships, both the LIN and the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care are introducing new program initiatives designed to maintain seniors in their housing that would fit this model.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Crisanti.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good morning. So under this model, I took note that on Appendix 5, there are 83 buildings listed. Are these buildings converting under the process, or will convert to a full seniors building?
We would take a look at the 83 buildings, understand at a granular level who are the tenants, and work with the tenants to identify what changes they would like to see in those buildings.
Okay. Specifically, 111 Kendleton, this is a building in my ward, Ward 1. I know that this has been the wish of the tenants that are there now, particularly the seniors, who have asked for many years that they would like this building to be converted back to a full seniors building. This was a seniors building at what time, was it not?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so then, so now it's under consideration for conversion to a 100% seniors building.
Correct, and we would look at all 83 as we develop the program model, understand who are the current tenants, and what the options are for moving forward. It's not a simple task, I would advise, where there are some mix in the buildings. We're not looking at moving existing tenants out.
Okay, no doubt it's not a simple task, but I just heard you say that we're not looking at moving existing tenants out. So how do we convert it to a full seniors building if
It
we
would
don't
be-
go through the process of moving tenants out?
It would be through attrition.
And then you can't really put a time frame on that if it's through attrition.
Correct. It would be depend on the movement within the building. It may be that there are tenants in that particular building or a particular building who would be better served in a different location. If that's the case and the tenants agree, then there may be an opportunity, but the choice really has to be in the hands of the tenants.
So there will be a proactive approach to moving some tenants out.
As we go through the model development, we will be working with those tenants and determine if there are better housing options, but at the end of the day, it is the tenant's choice as to whether or not they move.
So then we really don't know if this could take 2 years or 10 years at this point.
That's correct. It will be through attrition. One of the basic tenets of the work under Tenants First is to ensure that we support tenant decision-making and tenant choice. It would be problematic, I think, if staff came forward recommending that we forcibly require tenants to move.
All right, but we will be looking at some proactive ability to speak to tenants and see if they're willing to relocate.
On a building-by-building situation, yes, we will have conversations with those tenants.
All right, thank you. My final question is with respect to, this is Appendix 6, pilot projects, North Etobicoke operating, so this is with respect to exploring opportunities for TCHC and community partners to develop an innovative service delivery model, new partnerships to support marginalized youth. Can you elaborate a little bit on that and what type of programming you feel will be introduced to support this program and pilot project?
The pilot projects are have a dual focus. First, and my colleagues from TCHC can speak better to it, what are the organizational changes that would benefit local service delivery by TCHC staff? So that is a major focus. This is an important pilot because we're looking to broaden the success out to other TCHC communities. The other focus is on partnerships, both with community and other service providers, so to develop local action plans that both make the most effective use of TCHC resources as well as local community resources.
So this pilot is to develop, but you don't have a specific plan that is being recommended within that pilot that you can elaborate in terms of what it looks like?
Not at this point. We're working with the local community and local staff. Again, for a local service pilot to be effective, the TCHC frontline staff have to be engaged and as much a part of the work. We expect to have the plan firmed up in the next, certainly by the fall.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Through you to staff. The 83 buildings referred to in the report, those have been identified as seniors buildings?
That's correct.
And why aren't we doing a staged rollover? Maybe 20 at first, 30 at first, 40 at first, half of them, something like that, rather than 100% of them, to see how the model, measure how the model's working over a period of time before rolling the whole portfolio over?
The timing of this process will provide for that kind of review. So should council support the direction before you, staff will then, and both TCHC and city staff, work to develop the program model and the governance options. Those would come back to council before the end of 2017. Assuming that it is still a move forward, staff would spend the next 15 months doing the detailed operational planning and come back in the new term of council.
So tenants can be assured that their units will remain in their hands, their rent rates will be protected, their status in the building will be protected. They can wake up the next morning and see that nothing surrounding them has really changed. They can be rest assured that their situation is protected.
That is correct. The overall objective of the work is to make sure that their situation is improved, not in any way negatively impacted.
Now, within the report, you've got references to social services, which are delivered in a piecemeal way to TCH buildings now, and of course our capital backlog. How does this fix the latter? How does rolling these over fix our capital backlog?
The recommendation to create the Seniors Housing and Services entity is not intended to address the capital challenge. The capital fiscal challenge exists regardless of the portfolio structure, whether it's one or two. So it's somewhat neutral on that. The intention or the reason for the recommendation regarding the Seniors Housing and Services entity is to improve service delivery and outcomes, primarily for the seniors in those 83 buildings and the remainder of TCHC and others.
Now, one thing that's gone on in a couple of seniors buildings in Ward 10 is the union spread rumors that we were selling the buildings. Do you have a communication strategy in place to assure tenants that they need not worry about their position there, their home is? Are we reaching out to explain better the path we're going down?
Yes, working with Toronto Community Housing Corporation staff, they have taken the lead on developing communications plans for both staff and tenants.
Now, one of the confusing aspects of this report is you've also rolled in the scattered houses, which are quite different than multi-unit residential towers. What was the reason for not dealing them in separate ways? Because not only are they the physical plant is quite different, the capital needs are quite different, but also the occupants are often quite different as well. Why are we dealing with both of these in one report?
We're dealing with all 58,500 units currently in the portfolio. That was the focus of the original Tenants First. The advice to council and how to deal with those things is in fact very different. The Seniors Housing and Services entity, the advice is to look at bringing it closer in to the city. With the scattered or standalone housing, the advice is to undertake an REOI to see about actually pushing it further out to the nonprofit co-op and land trust.
So very quickly, you're very specific about the scattered houses and who you're looking to run them, but the only reference for the seniors portfolio is an entity. Is there any clear direction you can give on where you're going with that?
That was your last question.
Staff need to undertake the further program development, so we understand the program model that will guide advice with respect to governance and whether it's a division or a service agency of council. On the standalone housing, the understanding is that there may be other housing managers who are better able to manage that kind of housing.
Thank you. Councillor Davis, questions.
Thank you. I want to follow on those questions there, mine as well, which have to do with the governance structure. The first recommendation says that the new entity will be more directly accountable to City Council. How is it that that can be achieved? What are you thinking there?
The current governance structure for Toronto Community Housing Corporation, the single shareholder, is the furthest from council that council has the ability to create. The recommendation is worded to suggest that whether it's a city division or a service board, that it be more directly accountable to council than a shareholder corporation. That's what the language of the recommendation is intending to say.
So if I understand it, you will be reporting back on that governance model and on the program model in the fall of this year.
That's correct.
This is a very ambitious set of timelines.
That is also correct.
I presume you've had additional resources to pull together this very complex work.
We are working with strategic and corporate policy in the city manager's office, with city legal, with our colleagues at TCHC. Yes, we put together labor relations related work. All of those teams have been put together. However, you are correct, Councillor, it is very ambitious.
And complex. So,
correct.
In terms of the program model itself, I understand, and I think it's in concept an excellent notion of bringing together the services that we provide and to look at coordinating the delivery. Will that include public health as well?
It will absolutely include public health.
Okay.
The local health integration network is also highly engaged.
Okay, so that's where I was going to go next. I understand we have control over our city agencies that deliver services, including long-term care homes and services, public health. I don't know what other services that are specifically targeted. I presume we've got parks and recreation, and you could cast the net wide, and we could still have some degree of control over those. But when you then add on provincially funded agencies or provincially funded services, how are we going to ensure that there is going to be some level of control to City Council with those agencies also involved, outside provincially funded?
I'm not aware of a model that would provide council control over parts of the service system that aren't reporting to the city. However, all of our partners, like the Local Health Integration Network, and in fact the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care, have indicated a strong interest in aligning the work. I think we're all dealing with the demographic imperative, and there is a high degree of engagement from those
Tell me
entities.
we will not be downloaded with additional administrative responsibilities for services that are funded, managed at the provincial level.
There is no indication, no one is suggesting a wish for a download. The city has quite enough direct service responsibility and accountability to be a significant partner as opposed to anything else with those other entities.
It just worries me that we will increase expectations about services, service levels, and you mentioned that we are going to be making these kinds of coordinated services available to those who are not in TCHC buildings as well. So I'm wondering, how are we going to ensure service levels are equitable, there's equitable access, and where's the money going to come from?
Well, in fact, the city provides a range of services to seniors, non-TCHC seniors, whether it's through our grants program, seniors dental program, tax deferral and forgiveness programs, snow clearing, other social housing programs. There are a range of existing city services that constitute a fairly significant part of the system.
Thank you.
It's not taking on the health care.
Thank you. Councillor Palacio, questions?
Thank you, Speaker. How much it will cost the city in terms of creating this implementation plan as it relates to the short-term operational and capital funding?
With respect to the interim funding strategy for 2017 or 2018 and 2019, we're working through those numbers now. We would be coming back to you with that interim funding plan in November.
So you're still working on this development funding model?
That's correct. Looking at TCHC's capacity to spend over the next 2 years, all of the existing revenue opportunities and sources, and also to understand at a very fine detail the operating pressures through that period.
In terms of transitional costs, to mitigate financial risk to the city, is that going to be part of the funding model that you're working on as well?
Clearly, there would be an emphasis to come up with the most affordable funding model possible for council. But the other area of risk that is driving the work is the state of the 58,500 housing units and the lived experience of the tenants, which is also a risk. If we don't adequately address the capital, we also run risk.
Where is the funding for the implementation plan coming from? I assume that will go through the budget process.
That's correct.
How much money does the Toronto Community Housing currently receive from the city?
With the increase in the subsidy in 2017, it's approximately $242 million a year.
242.
That's correct.
Now, in terms of the implementation plan as it relates to seniors and mixed buildings, as you know, we have a few buildings that were downloaded from the Metro Toronto Housing Authority. And I did ask questions at the Executive Committee as it relates to 61 Pelham Park Gardens as well as 1901 Weston, which you agree those were senior buildings at whatever point?
And we will, through the implementation work, take a look at those buildings and any other buildings.
So we'll come back with some sort of further report on those buildings as well?
Absolutely. When we come back in the fall, there will be a clear process for reviewing other buildings and also addressing how the new model will support TCHC seniors who are in new TCHC buildings.
So on that, how does the implementation plan account for seniors in mixed buildings? I'm just thinking more in terms of support services and so on. How will that work?
So the program model for the seniors housing and services entity will need to address the needs of the seniors in the 83 buildings, the needs of the, I think it's 13,500 seniors in the other TCHC housing, as well as seniors in non-TCHC housing.
My last questions. Why are seniors a focal point at this point, especially within this first implementation phase? And how is that going to be seen on the next phase?
So there are two reasons or two broad issue areas. One, the universal agreement that the mandate of TCHC is too large, too complex, too many lines of business. And so there was a direction to look at ways of simplifying. The other broad reason is the simple demographics that in the next 15 years, seniors will be 1 in 4 of Toronto's population, and we need to develop and prepare for that demographic.
To be a senior,
Thank
what's
you.
the age, the magic age?
That was your last question, sorry.
59 and up.
Thank you.
Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. Of the Appendix 5 here, on the 13,904 units, and the buildings you have here, the number of buildings, 83, could you have a breakdown of which ones were MTHA, which ones were City Home, which ones were Ontario Housing?
Through the Speaker, I don't have that with me, Councillor, but we can get that for you.
And how each one was managed? Was there a difference in the management style for those three streams?
Yes, they were different, very different housing companies.
And so can you give me an example of difference in management for, let's say, the City Home versus or the MTHA versus the Ontario Housing, the seniors?
MTHA was Ontario Housing. MTHCL
that's the one I meant, yes.
Was the old Metro Housing.
That's correct.
Metro Housing was often developed in conjunction with other services. The Jarvis Wellesley site would be a good example of where Metro built the housing and a local welfare office in a single building. So there was often an attempt to develop multi-use housing projects.
Do you have that broken down somewhere? Can I ask for that as a further report with the types of different styles, maybe around relocation or moving between buildings and all the things that we heard when people came to make deputations?
We will do our best, Councillor, although the predecessor companies have been defunct for 17 years, so
I think the unions all know which ones were where.
We'll do our best, but there aren't a lot of
Yeah, I hear that, but so I will be asking for that.
Yep.
Thank you. And one of the things, do you know the number of employees associated with the 83 buildings?
Through the Speaker, it is about 171.
171 employees. Does that include the management, like, OU managers and everyone?
Through the Speaker, yes, it would.
Thank you. And then I'd like just to know about, are there any of these 83 buildings that are contracted out at the moment to Dell or to Greenwind?
Through the Speaker, I'm not aware of any, Councillor, but I will certainly get back to you and confirm that.
Perhaps we could get that, Speaker, an answer quickly. It's my understanding that in 2008 a number of buildings were turned over to the third-party providers. So I would like to get that answer on the record here. So I can either sit down or I can have that given. Could you stop my...
Yeah, I'll stop your time.
How you'd like to deal with that?
So
I'm looking for...
Can the staff provide you with that?
No, they don't have that information at their fingertips. I think it's rather important to know. So before we vote, I wouldn't mind knowing. Before I speak, I'd like to know.
Okay, so if I can ask the staff, when can you get that information?
We can have that information before the vote.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Then there's something else that I've noticed with the senior buildings, and in my ward, Francis Beavis Manor, which is the largest senior building, 369 Pape, and it all of a sudden started getting a lot of families and youth moving in through the relocation program. So how does the relocation program address seniors' buildings, and how will that change? Sorry, Speaker. My time is running.
Okay. Does the staff have the Councillor Fletcher?
Yes.
Does the staff have the answer for you?
I don't know. Just waiting to make sure that my time isn't running while they're looking.
Okay, I've got your time on hold. Sorry.
The portfolio management for the TCHC is incredibly complex. When they are doing redevelopments, sometimes that will generate relocations. And in fact, there may have been some to the building you're referring to.
So those are relocations from Regent Park into the seniors building. Is that a policy of TCHC currently?
It is a policy of TCHC to make sure that any tenants that are relocated as a development of a revite are enabled to come back to their community.
No, I'm not speaking about that. I'm speaking about a seniors building now having people that are from a revite in the seniors building, quite a number of them. A number of us have experienced that. We'd like to know if that's your policy currently.
I'm not sure, Councillor, I understand your question. If what you're saying is that will we use vacancies in seniors buildings to be able to house residents that are impacted by redevelopment, the question is yes, we look at the entire portfolio.
And so then what I'm asking staff then is, once we would have our discrete seniors portfolio, would that still be taking place?
Again, we haven't developed the program model, but I would think that unlikely as a process. In response to your earlier question, there are none of the 83 buildings that are contract managed. They are all directly managed.
Okay, how many buildings are contract managed in Toronto Community Housing?
I'll put your time on hold again.
I'm assuming TCHC will answer that.
Through the Speaker, 53 units buildings are contract managed.
53 out of?
About 2,100 buildings.
Thank you. And I think I'm almost out of time, but for this is a governance question regarding the board. Currently, the tenant representative on the board that are elected across the portfolio have their powers very limited by the corporation. They can't make a deputation at City Council, they can't speak to tenants, they can't do anything publicly on behalf of tenants. Are you aware of that?
No, Councillor, I'm not aware of the specific requirements, although they may be a mix of both city requirement and board governance requirements by the TCHC.
Could you find out if it's city requirements or board governance requirements and let me know, please?
Okay, that was
Through
your
the
last
Speaker, absolutely, that's part of the work ahead of us.
Oh, ahead of us. I thought you would know that before I speak, but I'll speak.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly, questions.
Thank you, Speaker. To Mr. Brillinger. It's obvious that the tenant advisory panel was very critical of the corporation, and yet I remember in the first 5 or 6 years that I served on it, in the original years, that it was extremely tenant focused. So what happened?
That is a very big question, Councillor. The company was focused on being an amalgamated agency in the first 5-6 years. It then became engaged in redevelopment, which took a bit of a different focus with Regent Park, Alex Park, and Lawrence Heights. There have continued to be program issues in the corporation, including tenant engagement. I don't know that that's a new issue. It has become more pointed for sure.
Would it be fair to say that, in a very general way, you can look at TCHC's performance and the delivery of services, social services, and the other in terms of just a safe, or not a safe and enjoyable physical context. Are you saying that it couldn't meet tenant expectations in either of those two areas?
We have heard from many tenants, many individuals, that is the case.
Is it because the corporation simply didn't have the money?
That is certainly a part of, a big part of the issue, but based on all of the review, the work, the conversations with tenants, there are two issues with the current company. One is it's financially unsustainable as is, and two, programmatically, it is not meeting the objectives either tenants or I believe the city would hold for it.
Is there, did the tenants in any way indicate that they would like to be more involved in, say, the physical upkeep of the property in which they lived?
Yes, they expressed significant desire to be more involved in all aspects, including their own management of their space.
And the maintenance as well?
I think they were generally respectful of the staff role vis-a-vis maintenance. So no, I don't recall anyone stepping up and saying we want to do the maintenance.
With respect to the proposed seniors housing, it would appear, and I share some of Councillor Davis's concerns, it seems that in creating this new seniors corporation that we're really committing ourselves to, as our seniors population increases and as it ages, to a very expensive proposal.
That's not the intent of the model, and staff will be sensitive to that concern as we move forward. I would, however, note that the city is already very committed to this population through that range of programming, most of which is city funded that I mentioned earlier.
One of the criticisms of the present model is that it creates communities inside communities. To what degree will we be able to deliver social services that integrate both the seniors and the remainder, the general population, into the local community?
Through the Speaker, that is a focus of the program design as we move forward, both with the new TCHC program model and the seniors housing and services model. The local service pilot is very much focused on how do we clarify TCHC's role vis-a-vis community services and others.
Finally, with respect, last question, may I? With respect to the model, have you looked at the Scandinavian model of non-governmental delivery of these services? And did you look at the possibility of using vouchers so that we get out of the physical management problems and challenges that have plagued us since the beginning?
Thank you. That was your last question.
We have not looked at that model specifically. However, our own program development would look to maximize the community and neighbors' role in service delivery.
Councillor Al-Jamari.
My question is about item 12 on page 37 of 425 pages. That the city councillor direct the deputy city manager, et cetera, to report on the seniors' buildings that have become mixed. For example, 61 Pelham Park Place at 1901 Weston Road, and a strategy to determine which buildings should be included in the new seniors housing and services entity.
Correct. That was a motion from Executive Committee.
Okay, so my question is there an existing list for these types of buildings?
No, we have, the report includes the list of 83.
Yes.
We will be working with TCHC as we develop the program model to identify if there are any other buildings that should be considered.
So what would you recommend that I do now? I have two Downsview Acres and Northwood Apartments that I want on that list. Shall I move an amendment?
We'll just take it. You've named them. We will ensure that we take a look at them.
Thank you. Downsview Acres and Northwood Apartments on Keel.
Got it.
Thank you.
Move a motion.
He doesn't need a motion.
Councillor DeGiorgio.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just have a very quick question and I'm very supportive of what is being looked at and what is being proposed. Mr. Marshman, if I may, at the end of the day, or Chris, either one, at the end of the day, what time horizon, how many years are we looking at before the framework is finally put in place to allow us to proceed in a modified fashion?
Through the Speaker, the timing would be, assuming Council supports the direction before you today, we would do the detailed work on the program model and the governance model to come back to this Council in November. Should Council support that advice, we would then spend the next 14, 15 months doing all of the detailed legal, financial, labor relations associated work. And come back to you, to the new council early in 2019 to enact the change, and at that point the corporations would be changed.
Great, thank you.
Speak, Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker, and I have a motion if it can be put on the screen that clerks have ready, and I'll introduce that. Let me begin, first of all, by thanking our city staff, many of whom have done a great deal of work on this. Staff in Toronto Community Housing, who often don't get the accolades and the thanks that they deserve, but most importantly, residents of Toronto Community Housing. I see many of them here today from my ward and others. Often we forget and lose sight of the fact that we're talking about people's homes when we talk about management changes and funding models and numbers and governance. It's people's homes. And this is who we're discussing. And I will say before getting into the body of the report that notwithstanding the hard work, the good intentions, and the relentless advocacy by so many, tenants in particular, as a city and as a province and as a country, we have let down TCHC over many years. And we've let down the residents who live there. We've closed units. Through insufficient funding, we haven't repaired homes in the way they deserve to be repaired. We've let them down. We've let down the staff and we've let down the tenants, and they deserve a great deal more and better. This Tenants First report, however, I believe, is a critical and important step to not only repairing the relationship with tenants, but to repairing the quality of housing that people live in. It's an important step forward. And where we are today, we know we have an aging housing stock. It's falling apart. Housing was built decades and decades ago, and it is now in a state of disrepair. We also know that we have 188,000 people on a waiting list. And so I say that because as a city and as a province, as a country, the debate we should be having is about building new housing. In a city like ours, we should be having a debate about how much housing to build, not how to better maintain and govern the housing we have. You know, it was in the last century, it was 100 years ago, all levels of governments decided to get into the business of public housing. We decided to build housing. We now, in 2017, have to decide if we're only going to debate whether to maintain and repair it better, or are we going to debate about building it again? And that's the debate we do need to have. That's the debate we should have, but that's not where we are right now. Where we are right now is about the quality of housing, the repair of housing, and the model of decision-making we have for our housing. And so Tenants First, in my view, addresses that. Some of the specifics on seniors for the residents of the 83 buildings that are seniors housing, as well as seniors who live in other mixed TCHC buildings. This model will better align senior services and provide better housing. In effect, it's back to the past. It's back to the Metro days with the Housing Court. For our standalone homes, for the scattered homes, this to me is so critical. For those 684 properties, for the people who live in those properties that provide not only larger family-sized units, but they provide mixed income housing in our neighborhoods, they will be, through this recommendation, protected forever. They will be affordable forever, and they will never be sold again. It means that every time we have a new term of council, we don't have an endless debate that unnerves residents about whether their house is going to exist. The decentralized pilot for decision-making in Weston, I think, allows us to finally and in a real way look at more local tenant-based decision-making to bring decisions about the quality of housing, the repair of housing, the services in that housing closer to tenants, but funding. This one is key. The report talks about in 2018 and 2019 that we as a city will backstop to ensure that the repairs are done and housing is not closed. The province of Ontario has let us down. They have let our tenants down, and this report, by us saying we will stand up and fund it, says that we won't let our tenants down. We won't close a single unit, a single additional unit in 2018 or 2019. That's critical. And so this report, it's a big report and it's an important step forward for the lives of our tenants, but I think it's also an important step to remind us and to state to everybody in this city that Toronto believes in public housing, that it is our responsibility, that we are going to own it, we're going to fund it, and we're going to maintain it. Us, not somebody else, the City of Toronto. And our next step, once this model is improved, to build more. TCHC is not too big. It's too simple to say TCHC is too big. It's not. It should be bigger. It's being too complex. That's what this model addresses, and I hope you support the recommendations. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Pasternak to speak.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I just wanted to thank staff and the various tenant advocacy groups for contributing to this process. There is no doubt that something has to be done about TCHC, the capital backlog, the lack of support services, the inability for council to have a reach and more of a say in the day-to-day governance. And that's exactly what we're really doing here. We are changing the governance model of our seniors' portfolio in some of our scattered houses. Councillor Cressley said TCHC is not too big. We have to build more and make it bigger. Actually, the people of Toronto don't feel that they want bigger government, and they don't feel they want smaller government. What they want is better government. And that's really the core of the report you're looking at. A model that will allow us to provide supports and services within our seniors' portfolio, and also at the same time have a better opportunity to maintain a good state of repair, to focus capital dollars, and to have a better say over the day-to-day operations. And seniors living is unique within our seniors portfolio. In Ward 10, we have one of the largest buildings in the city, 6250 Bathurst, and one of the second largest buildings, 4455 Bathurst Street, which are almost entirely filled with seniors. And there are very, very serious demands that we should be focusing on. We need an age-friendly physical plant in which we're reducing the incidence of trip and fall, bathroom modification, scooter parking, various active living activities focused on better communication, if there are language barriers or cultural barriers, better early interventions in that sense. And I think this allows us to take a smaller piece of buildings, although 83 is not all that small, but smaller, and be able to target some of the federal and provincial programs that are geared towards seniors. And it is very important to realize embedded in the report is the growing number of seniors in our aging population. And while we should have probably done this 10 years ago, we're doing it now because we're preparing for this aging population. It's also important to remember that our seniors are the ones who came here from foreign lands to build businesses, to raise families, to fight in foreign wars for our freedoms, and it is our responsibility as a city to treat them with honor and dignity, and there's no better way of doing that than providing them with a safe, secure housing arrangement that's also affordable. And going forward at this, we must ensure that we are communicating with our residents to make sure that their residency is secure, is safe, that it's not at risk, that their rent levels will be protected, and they can rest easy that they'll always have a place to stay as long as they want. So with this, we have to watch this very closely. We can't just vote yay today and then not watch it closely. We have to read very carefully the interim reports that are coming back. We must make sure the staff report back on how this is going. There are some inherent confusions within the report on why the scattered houses are dealt with in the same report as major multi-unit facilities as well. And certainly we have to look very closely at what kind of so-called entity will manage that. But that going forward, this is an interim report and a good phase one, and I think it deserves support as long as we're protecting our seniors, protecting our tenants, protecting the philosophy of social housing, and watching very closely as the process goes forward. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher to speak.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on the staff for my two motions.
Not ready?
Yeah, I'd go right after Councillor Layton.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Councillor Layton.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I'll actually be very brief. I was relieved when I saw the wow, that speaker's list grew. I was relieved when I saw the staff recommendations come out in the direction that our staff took in this report. I think what it will do if we implement this report is secure Toronto's public housing for the next generation and beyond. We'll chart a course that will, in fact, take us away from what we were doing in the last term of council, and that was selling off housing and mothballing rather than investing. But the real test in all of this, which is why I'm cautiously optimistic, is how we implement recommendation 4, and that's the recommendation actually says direct staff to report back on what these funding formulas are. And that always concerns me, because what we actually fund at the end of the day may be dramatically different than what we're voting on here today to do, and the intent of what we want, and that is putting tenants first. So while I'm optimistic at the fact that we've got a set of recommendations that take us in the right direction, the real question will be handled at Budget Committee. Because of the language we're using in this report today, we're only asking staff to report back rather than actually say, here's the money, let's go and do it. And my worry is, my worry when we do stuff like this and we pass pedestrian safety plans and we pass climate change plans, my worry is that it's lost on the poverty reduction strategy, it's lost on the cutting room floor at budget. And it's because we have tied the hands of our civil servants to put together a budget proposal, a tax rate, or other revenue adjustments that will actually result in implementing all of Council's priorities. So while I applaud staff for their efforts and our Tenants Advisory Committee for helping put this together, we really need to look at recommendation 4 and say, what are we going to do when November rolls around in an election year? Are we going to be willing to put our money where our mouth is and spend the money necessary to protect these tenants and put them first? Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fletcher, are you ready?
Yes, with what's ever ready.
Okay.
I have a few motions.
Can we put the motions on the screen? They're not ready?
I'm fine to move the ones that are ready.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Are there any that are ready?
Yes.
There's just one that's ready.
That's correct.
But you have to...
That's fine. I'll move the one. Maybe Councillor Algemary will move the other two for me.
Okay. Councillor, if you can put the one that you have ready on the screen. No, but Councillor Fletcher said the other motions, Councillor Algemary is going to move on her behalf.
The one I've signed already is good. Just going to move the one.
She's just going to move the one.
The one that I signed. There, that one. That's fine.
Okay.
Just looking for any official plan amendments that may get caught up, so we don't get caught up in a legal battle. And now I will speak.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very happy we're here today putting tenants first. And I really want to applaud tenants who we did put first in this process. A fantastic team from across the City of Toronto that made a presentation at Executive, long-time tenant advocates, long-time advocates for good housing and good conditions in the City of Toronto, Doris Power and others who've spent innumerable hours in this chamber, at this City Hall, and out in the community, helping to guide this process. We've been here in this chamber full of tenants with We Are Not For Sale, advocating for their homes, advocating that City Council step up and repair buildings. And today, we're doing something so great that we don't have a chamber full of people that are upset. We've got people that believe that we are moving in a really important direction and that we are thinking of putting tenants first. So I do have to thank you, Mr. Mayor, for undertaking the task force and making this a really critical part of your administration in a very thoughtful way. And to look at how we got here after however many years of almost 20, maybe 18 of a new corporation, and whether the way we put that together back then is still working as well as it needs to once we've seen how it's growing. So discussing the seniors as a special entity, and one of the reasons why I was asking about the contract buildings for Dell and Greenwood and seniors is because in 2008 the corporation came to the board and said, we think we should manage the seniors' homes a little differently. We're going to put them under contract management, so moving contract management from other buildings to the seniors. Seniors' homes have always been thought of in a very distinct way. I also want to remind you that one of the most tragic things that ever took place in Toronto community housing did take place in a senior's home in Arletta Manor, where Al Gosling, unfortunately, didn't fill out his paperwork properly and was being treated as if he was a normally functioning 35-year-old single man instead of a 68-year-old starting to not be as with it as he should be, and a little bit grumpy and a little bit not able to get the paperwork done, and that ended in his eviction and his ultimate death in the corridor in Toronto community housing. And that set the stage for many things, including the Fairness Commissioner that's now in place. It took a while to get that person there to make sure that rental evictions are that we try to ensure that we don't have rental eviction, that people in this circumstance like Mr. Al Gosling are flagged. It's not the caretaker working with him. There are many, many things that can be improved in all of our corporations, including Toronto Community Housing. But the fact that we would be looking at managing our seniors as a portfolio, the same as we have our old age homes as a portfolio, recognizing there's something special about that demographic. The people are starting to lose it a little bit, perhaps. They're not as on their game. They need help. It's not a regular tenancy as we have in most of the buildings. So I completely support making this a distinct unit. And want to thank the staff for spending the time. I want to thank all the tenants for their engagement, and I look forward to seeing that come back. As far as the single-family REOI, I think that's a good idea. I just want to remind you, many years ago, instead of selling, we transferred 26 homes to Wigwaman, Aboriginal housing provider. This council did, where there are 26 families living in community so successfully. They could never have built all of that. They could never have started from scratch and done that. So the importance of making sure we're not getting rid of 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units. People aren't building 5-bedroom homes anymore. They're not building 5-bedroom apartments anymore.
Thank you.
So maintaining what we have is very important. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Councillor Davis.
Speaker, it's 12:27. I mean, I'm happy to try and speak within 3 minutes.
All right. Recess to 2 o'clock.